Yes, those who have voted for Donald Trump, whether or not you want to believe it, um, these are people who lack morality, decency, truthfulness, honesty, and everything that comes with a decent human being. So you're going to hear, we're going to play a video of you listening to Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC. Yeah, and we can go back. Most immigrants, that migrated to the United States of America are from conservative background, unless you're from Europe. So you know that we were taught the difference between wrong and right. When you migrate to America, you realize that later on, especially since Barack Obama, you know that wrong was up is down and down is up, and they start all of these madness with the American government has always been lying to the people and the world, but the scale of lying and social engineering escalated under Barack Obama. When they tell you that man can become woman, men can become women, and women can become men, and they cannot argue with you with facts. What they do, they label you and then they use economic terrorism against you, and that's how we get a rise up of a Donald Trump, because people things that they have seen in Donald Trump is what they had seen in themselves, but they could not express it publicly because they will get chastised, vilified, and ostracized in the public domain. So Donald Trump was the one that gave them that cover. So that's the reason why we got Donald Trump. President Donald Trump has repeatedly demonstrated that he's not only a habitual liar, but a man fundamentally lacking in moral integrity, basic human decency, and truthfulness. His pattern of deception is so deeply ingrained that lying appears to be second nature to him, almost as instinctual as breathing. I have never seen a human being that lie like Donald Trump, believe you me. This is the first person I've ever seen tell one lie, then he will tell a second lie and the first lie, and then he will tell a third lie and the second and the first lie. And although he keep regressing, he just keep lying. The man never speak the truth. And then you have people who are around him who keep aid and bet him in his line. If you are not one of those persons who willing to ignore your conscience and honesty, decency, and all of these things, you cannot be in his orbit. And one thing with Donald Trump, any relationship that he has, personal relationship, is one way, and it's him. Donald Trump don't care about you. Not even I don't think he cares about his children. All he cares about is Donald Trump. So this man is a sick puppy. I can say publicly and privately, on the fools vote for Donald Trump. People who love liars and people who love criminals. If you vote for a liar, expect to be told lies. If you vote for a thief, expect to be robbed. And we can go on and on. But his pattern of deception is so deeply ingrained that lying appears to be second nature to him. The man just lie. Man. So you're going to see how many times they expose him as a liar, publicly, humiliating him. But the man, as usual, he has no shame. So despite this, a significant portion of the American electorate continue to support him, even after his conviction in a court of law. The only conviction Donald Trump have is the 34 conviction where him convicted for in New York, and it was a woman who was behind the case, a black person up in New York. All the white people in government are in the prosecutor offices, various states and federal districts are afraid of him, but only the black people stand up to him. That goes to show that fear is imaginary. The power that Donald Trump has is given to him by man, not God. Black people know that you're going to die once and you die with dignity. White people don't care because they are cowards. They operate like hyenas in packs. They can't do things independently. The very few white people that have any spine, they are no longer in the Republican Party. It's a party of criminals, of Russians, They have handed over the government to a South African and his acolyte, the Antichrist, Elon Musk. Yes, so despite the significant portion of American celebrity can't support the man. So this unwavering loyalty to a man who has been repeatedly exposed for his dishonesty raises serious concern about the state of political discourse and the erosion of ethical standard in governance. Trump's presidency is marked by an unparalleled disregard for the truth, with fact checkers documented thousands of false and misleading statements. His lies were just rival to none. His lies were just trivial exaggeration, but often deliberate attempt to manipulate public perception, discredit institutions, and undermine the democracy itself. This man has caused the death of over 1 million people because of his lying, and them still vote for him. And now, these people, the same one who voted for him, they are feeling the pangs of hell. And guess what? Rightly so, majority of American people don't even care about them or show them any form of love or sympathy. This man, whether it was spreading baseless conspiracy theories, lying about election results, or denying scientific facts, his willingness to fabricate reality for personal and political gain became a defining feature of his leadership. What is perhaps most alarming is the extent to which his supporters are willing to overlook or even embrace his deceit. One point in time in America, if a person around for president gets a traffic ticket, based on that alone, voters wouldn't even voted for him. And this man have 34 criminal convictions, but because he's white and it's white supremacy, he's able to run for office and they voted for him. That goes to show that the people that voted for him, they are morally bankrupt. Now, most of them, they are crying, losing their farms and all of these things. And guess what? They are not getting any sympathy from the people who did not vote for Donald Trump, because they were told. Many of those who voted for him knew full well that he was a convicted criminal. Yet, they remain undeterred. Their justification, a blend of political tribalism, misinformation, and a rejection of accountability that has become disturbingly normalized in American politics, and refuse to accept the truth. This blind allegiance suggests that for many, ideology and party loyalty have eclipsed principles such as honesty, integrity, and respect for the rule of law. This man should be in prison for what he did January 6th. And I say that without any apology. Any police officer who support Donald Trump, that police officer is not a police officer, he's a criminal in uniform. Based on what we have seen happening January 6th. They had to even kill police officers and the man released police officers. But I can tell you this, and this is a prediction. Whenever the same MAGAs turn on them, the same police officers that defended the Capitol and defended them, I hope they will run and leave them. Leave all of these MAGAs, politicians in DC, leave them to the mob. Let them string them, as they wanted to do to Mike Pence. Many global leaders, once allies of the United States, expressed deep concern over his erratic behavior and inability to engage in honest diplomacy. As a result, America is standing in the world suffered, with many questioning the reliability and stability of its leadership. America is now seen as a rogue nation, aligned with North Korea, Russia, and China, and Iran. Donald Trump wants to be a dictator, and his party, the people who are in Congress, and the Senate, and the Supreme Court, they are all in lockstep with him because they want to control the masses of the people in America. They want to dominate others. Will the people of America allow it? That's the reason why people are standing up. People expect to be killed because he has lackeys, but even those who are killed, those who are responsible expect to be executed because they have to be an example that's set for them, just like what happened with Mussolini. In the midst of this, commentators like Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC have made it their mission to hold Trump accountable through rigorous fact-checking and pointed criticism. Those who watch Fox News and all of these things expect to be fed lies on top of lies. I don't know how these people do it, and these people are white people, and they're destroying their own people. How you do such thing? How you sleep at nights? But, it's all about, remember, if somebody doesn't have any morals, decency, honesty, or truthfulness, or God in them, nothing that they do bothers them. Lawrence O'Donnell, like many seasoned journalists, has frequently dismantled Trump's webs of lies in scathing monologues that expose not only his dishonesty, but the disturbing willingness of his supporters to enable it. Through well-researched analysis and unwavering commitment to truth, O'Donnell and others in the media continue to push back against the dangerous normalization of deceit in politics. Ultimately, Trump's legacy will be one of deception, moral bankruptcy, and a stark warning about the consequences of electing leaders who prioritize personal gain over the public good. His presidency will be a stress test again for our democracy, revealing the vulnerabilities that arise when a leader operates without accountability. The fact that he remains the president, despite his well-documented history of corruption and falsehood, is troubling indication of how deeply partisan divisions and disinformation have taken hold in the United States. And the Trump presidency have removed even that's little safeguard that we had to protect from misinformation. That is no longer there, because they thrive on lies. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But he never fooled me, because I see him for who he is. A man who has a business bankrupt how many times? Only somebody who cannot run a business with a bankrupt. But look, if you can scam somebody and lie to them, and you have been successful, you continue doing it because you know that they're fools. These people are low IQ people. Most of them have a third-grade education. They can't compete with immigrants. Even the Mexicans who pick the strawberries are doing much better than them, but they eat everyone, not eating themselves. Most of them, they have a third-grade education, so they eat others who are doing much better than them. If you ever go in the community where these people live that voted for Donald Trump, you'll be shocked. You would never know that this is the United States of America. It's worse than a third-world country, especially in the red states. You would never want to live there. The question now is whether the nation will learn from this period of history or continue down the pathway of truth and integrity or sacrifice or political expediency. The answer to that question will determine not just the fate of America or democracy, but its credibility on the global stage for generations to come. Right now, America, no one trusts or respects America. Whereas Donald Trump, people see him as the laughing stock of the world. So you watch, you listen, and you decide. Lawrence O'Donnell taking down Donald Trump with his lies, and we appreciate it. So you watch, you listen, and you decide.
Same chair where he was. Well, Donald Trump was humiliated once again today in the Oval Office, sitting in exactly the same chair where he was humiliated in exactly the same way in this same week on Monday. Donald Trump made history on Monday by being the first president of the United States to lie publicly about America's oldest ally, France, with the president of France sitting right beside him. That created the historic humiliation touch seen around the world. President Emmanuel Macron of France actually reached across to put his hand on Donald Trump to stop Donald Trump from lying about France. Donald Trump said that Europe contributed less aid to Ukraine than the United States did. That's a lie. Europe has contributed more than the United States has. And Donald Trump once again told the lie that American aid to Ukraine was a donation, but European aid to Ukraine was a loan, and Ukraine was required to pay back France and all the other European countries that have aided Ukraine. And that was a lie that President Macron could not abide. And that is when President Macron interrupted Donald Trump, had to interrupt him and stop him from continuing to tell that lie. Because Donald Trump is not now and never has been, educable. 3 days later, Donald Trump walked into exactly the same humiliation trap in the Oval Office today with the British Prime Minister sitting beside him.
You know, they get their money back by giving money. We don't get the money back. Biden made a deal. He put in $350 billion, and I thought it was a very unfair situation.
We're not getting all of ours. I mean, quite a bit of ours was gifted, it was given. There were some loans, but mainly it was gifted, actually.
It was gifted, actually. Did you see that left hand? That's the interruption hand that the French president used. The British Prime Minister's left hand goes toward Donald Trump, but he's British. He's British. So he's not touchy-feely. He's not going to touch him. But he does interrupt him, just like the French president did. Once again, Donald Trump told the deranged lie that the aid supplied to Ukraine by the British will have to be paid back by Ukraine. And that is the only thing Donald Trump said today that forced the British Prime Minister to actually interrupt him. The British Prime Minister did not see it as his role to correct Donald Trump for lying about the amount of American aid supplied to Ukraine. Donald Trump more than doubles the real number when he accuses Joe Biden of providing $350 billion in aid to Ukraine, when in fact it was $119 billion. It's the kind of Trump lie that everyone has grown accustomed to, especially the White House press corps. Of course, Donald Trump will lie about the numbers. He always does, any number. The Washington press corps seems to have internalized that to the point where they never zero in on his lies about the numbers. If any other president said $350 billion when the true number is $119 billion, every Washington reporter would instantly zoom in on that. If any other president said $350 billion when the true number is $119 billion, every Washington reporter would instantly zoom in on that. But Trump lying is now fully built in to the press expectations of anything Donald Trump says publicly. Imagine a reporter asking, "Why are you lying about it, sir? Why do you keep lying about it, sir?" That actually happened in those exact words during the first Trump presidency, when White House reporter Andrew Feinberg got so fed up with Trump lies that that's what he ended up asking. Why are you lying? A lone voice emerging from the White House press corps then, coming out of the clamor, saying, "Why are you lying about it, sir? Why do you keep lying about it, sir?" And of course, Donald Trump didn't answer him. Today in the Oval Office, Andrew Feinberg, once again, asked the best question of anyone in the White House press corps.
On tariffs, you just said with China. Who are you with? I'm with The Independent. Oh, that's good. It's on tariffs. You just said that China. We charge them as in we charge China, but the tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers.
Finally, a White House reporter confronting Donald Trump with the truth about tariffs for the first time ever. What's Donald Trump going to do? He's cornered. American tariffs are paid by American consumers. The truth that everyone in the world knows except Donald Trump and, I guess, Trump voters. Donald Trump, when he was cornered, did what he always does when he's cornered. He lied.
The tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers.
No, they're not. No, I think they're paid for by the country. But, you know, look, we can get into that.
And that was the end of that. It's like saying gasoline taxes are paid at the pump by us when we buy gas for our cars. And Donald Trump says, no, they're not. The sad truth is, we don't actually know if Donald Trump is so deeply stupid that he believes what he is saying. I leave it to you to decide which would be better, a president stupid enough to think that foreign countries pay American tariffs, or a president who knows the truth but lies about it. It's one or the other. The British Prime Minister is sitting beside the President of the United States and is hearing the stupidest response by a head of state to a question about tariffs in the history of the subject of tariffs. There is a kind of person whose humiliation reflex simply doesn't work. That might be what's going on with Donald Trump. It might be that Donald Trump, sitting beside the British Prime Minister, saying the stupidest thing ever said by a head of state about tariffs is not something Donald Trump finds humiliating. But the world sees it as humiliating to Donald Trump. After the Oval Office session, the President and the Prime Minister had lunch and then were back in front of the microphones for a formal press conference in which, in his formal opening remarks, Donald Trump proved once again how relentlessly uneducable he is by telling the same lie that he was humiliated for in the Oval Office.
Much of the European aid to Ukraine has been sent in the form of loans for which they expect to be paid back, and we didn't have that honor under the Biden administration. He sent money, or just send it money after money after money, and never had any knowledge of ever seeing it back. Maybe $300 to $350 billion.
Manners dictated that the British Prime Minister not interrupt at that point, because Donald Trump was struggling his way through a teleprompter read of his formal written opening remarks at the beginning of what was supposed to be a press conference, and so those lies floated by unhindered by reality that time. The reality is that the Biden administration did not send money to Ukraine. The Biden administration sent weapons. The Biden administration sent ammunition, all of it manufactured in the United States. Almost all the money spent on aid to Ukraine was spent in the United States, buying the weapons and ammunition made by American workers in American factories. And again, it was less than half the amount Donald Trump says it was. And no European country expects to be paid back for the aid they've supplied to Ukraine. Imagine my joy when Donald Trump made the mistake of choosing Andrew Feinberg for the first question in the press conference. A word here about the White House Press Corps. You've heard more criticism of the White House Press Corps on this program over the years than anywhere else on television. And so, when the White House Press Corps gets it right, I want to be the first to honor that. And Andrew Feinberg got it right today, as he has in the past, which is why Andrew Feinberg will be joining us on this program tonight. When Donald Trump made the mistake of calling on Andrew Feinberg for the first question of the press conference, he heard the best questions asked by a White House reporter this year.
Earlier today, you told me that you believe that foreign countries pay tariffs, but Americans who are concerned about higher prices believe, as most people do, that they're paid by consumers and importers when they import things into this country. Can you explain how you came to this belief that foreign governments are paying tariffs? And for the Prime Minister, did you discuss with President Trump his repeated statements of desire to annex Canada? And has the King expressed any concern over the President's apparent desire to remove one of his realms from his control?
Wow. It doesn't get better than that. Both of those questions were perfect. And yes, sadly, Canada is part of the realm of the King of England, who unfortunately still appears on Canadian currency. So once again, Donald Trump was cornered. Can you explain how you came to this belief that foreign governments are paying tariffs? That is a perfectly phrased question, and Donald Trump had to be the first of the two to answer that two-part question.
So I'll go ahead with the first part. The tariffs are necessary because we've been treated very unfairly by many, many countries, including our friends, friend and foe.
Donald Trump went on to speak 150 words without ever answering the question, how do you come to this belief that foreign governments are paying tariffs? And in those 150 words, he didn't say that foreign governments are paying tariffs. He didn't bother to insist that foreign governments are paying tariffs when he got caught like that. He just talked in circles until he felt he filled out enough time ending with this.
But I will tell you, it's going to make our country rich, and it's going to stop us from being a laughingstock all over the world, because we have been taken advantage of like no country has ever been taken advantage of. Thank you very much.
Donald Trump is a laughingstock all over the world for claiming that tariffs he imposes are paid by foreign countries instead of American consumers. If Donald Trump puts a tariff of 50% on a Samsung TV coming into this country, then you will pay 50% more for that TV. Tariffs are sales taxes. That's all they are. And the buyer pays the sales tax. And the man who is a laughingstock all over the world is the only head of state in history anywhere in the world who believes he has the power to tax other countries. Because Andrew Feinberg's question about Canada to the British Prime Minister was, did you discuss with President Trump his repeated statements of his desire to annex Canada? The British Prime Minister had an easy out for that question.
You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Yeah, so the laughingstock didn't discuss Canada with the British Prime Minister. The laughingstock president who wants to make Canada the 51st state did not discuss with the British Prime Minister whether the King of England and the British government would be willing to agree to losing Canada from the group of British Commonwealth countries. We have every right to believe that Donald Trump was hearing for the very first time from Andrew Feinberg that there is any relationship at all between Canada and the guy who's going to appear on the next edition of their $20 bill, the King of England. The next great question asked at the press conference today was asked by a British reporter who unfortunately was just there for the day and won't be around to ask any more questions of Donald Trump.
Mr. President, tomorrow you're seeing President Zelensky to sign this deal on minerals and energy that could be hugely important to the United States. Will you take the opportunity to apologize to him for calling him a dictator while praising Vladimir Putin, who is a dictator?
Needless to say, Donald Trump simply did not answer Robert Peston's question. He just said, I think we're going to have a very good meeting tomorrow. That's what happens when a cowardly person is confronted with the truth. Donald Trump all but melted in reaction to the dictator question. Are you going to apologize for calling him a dictator while praising Vladimir Putin, who is a dictator? Donald Trump delivered the functional equivalent of speechlessness, because Donald Trump proves in moments like that he does not have the courage of his convictions, because he has no convictions except the 34 convictions he earned in a Manhattan courtroom last year. Donald Trump doesn't believe anything. Donald Trump doesn't even believe Donald Trump. When Donald Trump calls President Zelensky a dictator, he knows he's lying, and he does not believe it. And so when he's called on it, as perfectly as a British reporter did today, Donald Trump's got nothing. The bluster is gone. We can only hope that the notes the other members of the White House press corps took today in that press conference included performance notes on how Andrew Feinberg does it, and how the British reporter Robert Peston does it. That's the way they should all do their jobs in the White House press corps. While Donald Trump was being humiliated in the Oval Office by the British Prime Minister and his own ignorance, on the Senate floor, Senator Ruben Gallego said this.
This is a war that Russia started. Ukraine did not ask for it. They did not ask to go to war with a nuclear superpower, and they did not ask for their cities to be reduced to rubble. They didn't ask for their children to be displaced and families to be torn apart. If Ukraine had its way, this war would have ended years ago. What happened at the UN puts us on the same side as Russia and North Korea. That's not just embarrassing, It is dangerous. It sent a message to our allies and every other country that relies on the U.S. to stand up to bullies and defend them and help them defend themselves, that America cannot be relied on to rightfully call out unprovoked aggression. It told them that they are on their own, that America's words means nothing.
Yeah, so some people be asking, why does Donald Trump keep lying and why does he keep getting away with it? Donald Trump's habitual dishonesty is not simply a personality quirk or a political strategy. It's a fundamental aspect of his character and the way he navigates the world. His lies are not occasional misstatements or exaggeration, but rather a deeply ingrained pattern of deception that has defined his career in business, entertainment, and politics. Understanding why he lies and why he continues to evade accountability requires an exploration of a psychological makeup. It has to be studied. The political and media landscape and the willingness of his supporters to enable and defend his falsehood. The man lie as if there's no tomorrow. So one, the psychology of Trump's lying. At his core, Trump appears to be a pathological liar, someone who lies compulsively, often without regard for consequences. His dishonesty is not merely strategic, but instinctive. He lies even when there's no clear advantage in doing so. Psychologists have suggested that Trump exhibits traits consistent with narcissistic personality disorders, which include a deep need for admiration, a lack of empathy, and an inflated self-importance. Some of this, this inflated sense of self-importance, and ego. So yeah, you understand. So for an individual like Trump, lying serve multiple purposes. Self-aggrandization, self-aggrandizement. He distorts reality to portray himself as more successful, intelligent, or powerful than he actually is. Donald Trump is the dumbest president ever in America. I can't even bet you that my GPA is higher than Donald Trump. I tell you. Deflection, when confronted with failures or wrongdoing, he fabricates alternative narratives to avoid responsibility. Manipulations, his lies are often designed to control the perceptions and actions of others, keeping both allies and opponents off balance, reinforcing his own reality. Trump has built an alternative reality where he is always the hero, and anything that contradicts this fantasy is dismissed as fake news. Over decades, this behavior has become so routine that truth and falsehood are indistinguishable to him. He says whether he's most beneficial at the moment, whether or not it aligns with reality. The man even collect money for veterans and thief it. And the media for call him out for me and it over to the veterans them. That's all, and them still vote for him. I never seen anything like this. Two, the political and media landscape that enables his lies. One of the key reasons Trump has been able to get away with his dishonesty is that he's operating a media and political environment that rewards spectacle over substance. In an era of fragmented media consumption, where millions of people live in echo chambers of misinformation, Trump lies do not face the kind of universal scrutiny that would have destroyed politicians in previous generations. White right-wing media ecosystem, network like Newsmax, Fox News, One America Network, act as propaganda for Trump, amplifying and legitimizing his falsehood whilst attacking any source that dare to challenge him. Social media influences. Trump's mastered the use of social media, particularly Twitter, before he was banned and then he was allowed to join by the Antichrist, Elon Musk, as a tool to spread misinformation directly to his follower, bypassing traditional media fact-checking. So we don't even have that no more, fact-checking. So the few journalists who in the White House who calling out his lie, him banned them off of Air Force One. And the people them don't see that, so realize that this man is not only a liar, but he's a convicted criminal. Or the president of the United States is a convicted criminal, but hey, them not no problem because I'm white. Erosion of trust in institutions. Trump has actively sought to discredit the press, the judiciary, and even intelligence agencies, convincing his base that any information contradicting his narrative is part of a conspiracy against him. And they are so dumb. These are the real dummies. Low IQs. Because his followers have been conditioned to distrust traditional news sources and only believe pro-Trump's outlets. Fact-checking has little effect on them. They simply dismiss accurate reporting as fake news or a deep state plot against their leader. The cult-like devotion of his supporters. Another critical reason Trump continues to get away with lying is the unwavering loyalty of his supporters, many of whom display a near religious devotion to him. Several factors contribute to this phenomenon. Tribalism. Many Trump supporters see politics as a battle between us conservative and them liberals, the establishment, the media. This means that even when Trump is caught lying, they are more concerned with owning the libs than holding him accountable. Real dummies. Confirmation bias. People tend to believe what aligns with their pre-existing worldview. Trump tells his base what they want to hear, whether it's that the 2020 election was stolen, that immigrants are to blame for economic struggles, or that he's a victim of a corrupt system. Fear and grievance politics. Trump masterfully exploit the fears and grievances of his supporters, particularly around issues of race, economic insecurity, and cultural change. Many see him as their last hope against an America they feel is slipping away. Authoritarian mindset. Many of his supporters display an authoritarian mindset where loyalty to a strong leader is prioritized over democratic norms. To them, Trump lies are not moral failings but necessary tactics to fight against perceived enemies. Because of this, no amount of factual evidence will shake their faith in him. They are willing to excuse or even embrace his falsehood because they see him as their champion. Even January 6th, that the world saw on the TV, and they still voted for the man. The man tried to overthrow the government. The man should be in prison. If Donald Trump was black, they would shot him and kill him. They would try him the January 21st, convict him by the 24th, and shot him if he was black. The fear of accountability, despite his long history of deceit, Trump has really faced real consequences, reinforces his belief that he can lie with impunity. Several factors contribute to this. Legal system delays. Trump has been embroiled in numerous lawsuits and criminal investigation, but the wheel of justice turns slowly, allowing him to continue his political career while legal cases drag on for years. Republican Party complicity. Instead of holding him accountable, the Republican Party has largely surrendered to him, fearing the wrath of his base. Many GOP politicians privately acknowledge his dishonesty but refuse to challenge him publicly, lest they be reprimanded or primaried or ostracized. Those who stand up, history will remember him like Liz Cheney, Sanford, and a few, Mitt Romney. A few of them stand up, but the others, spineless. Even them, well, like Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, they have no children, so when they are dead, nobody will remember them because there will be nobody for them, so you can point and shame them because of their father, because these men are rare Almoral fish. You understand? Media normalization. Even mainstream media outlets, while critical of Trump, often frame his lies as controversial statements rather than outright fabrication, softening the impact of his deception. Shorter sentence span of the public. In the age of a 24-hour news cycle, scandals that would have ended other politicians' careers are quickly forgotten and the next controversy takes over. That's a difference now with the Republican and the Democratic Party. In a Democratic Party, he couldn't get away with so many things. But Donald Trump was a Democrat, turned Republican, and take over the party. I know say he had said it before. He said, "I dumbest people them in America. I never see a people them stupid." So even although they heard Donald Trump said that and saw the video of the man that said him an idiot, them still vote for him. That for sure he said these are people. Them not really have no account to them not have no head, them not have no brain. The consequences of his lies, Trump dishonesty is not harmless. It has had real and devastating consequences for the country and the world. Some of his most damages effects include undermining democracy. His big lie about the 2020 election being stolen led to the January 6th insurrection, a direct attack on the democratic process. Mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic is falsely and downplaying the severity of COVID-19 and pushing unproven statements contributed to the unnecessary deaths. We say a doctor woman, I don't remember, shall ruin our career, our character for Donald Trump. Dr. Fauci have him character intact. While say right to go out there and lamblast it, it's just that I don't know how these people sleep, but them just evil. Eroding trust in government and media by constantly attacking institutions that hold power to account. Trump has created a world where millions of Americans no longer believe in objective reality. Normalizing corruption. His presidency has set dangerous presidency where lying, obstruction of justice and abuse of power are seen as acceptable if one has enough political support. But we know that whether or not you want to believe it, this is my prediction. 2027, Donald Trump will be impeached and convicted this time as president. Not like how the last time he was, they never reached a 2/3, they might reach more than a 2/3. Because next year, when time they, after them pass the bill and start squeeze some of them supporters them, that's when the Senate and the House are going to flip. 2027, Donald Trump is going to be the first president to be convicted. And the reason why Donald Trump has been around so long is because the Republican Party, the people in the party, they are all criminal minded. What's his I'm looking at him right now, them call him the Darth Vader. That man is the epitome of evil. When him dead wicked. That's the senator from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, Moscow Mitch. These are some corrupt people. Them now not God in them are truthfulness. So the question of whether Trump will ever truly face consequences for our dishonesty remains uncertain. While he has been indicted and even convicted in court, his political viability remains strong because of the factors outlined above. Until the supporters demand honesty, them are liars themselves and integrity from their leaders, or until the legal system decisively hold them accountable, Trump will continue to lie without fear. In the broader picture, Trump is not just an individual liar. He's a symptom of a deeper crisis in American politics, where truth is increasingly negotiable and loyalty to political figure outweigh commitment to reality. Whether the country can recover from this era of misinformation will depend on the willingness of its institution, media and citizens to reject deception and demand accountability from those in power. One thing for sure is that all the people that have voted for Donald Trump, no one say they are low IQ people, but they are all real dummies, big dummies. Most of them have nothing more than a third grade education. Have yourself a beautiful day. Peace.